beats us to the punch.
Jim, so this was a truly special night, historic night you made here. The first ever inaugural Police Gazette International Cup. How would you sum up the night for us?
I'm really happy. It was a great card. You know, fights, we had everything. We had knockouts, we had wars, we had the whole lot. So, no, really happy. At the end of the day, our partnership with BYB is flourishing. And we're putting good fights on for the fans, and that's what it's about. No BS, just good fights.
What was the fight of the night for you?
Fight of the night, I think, for me, was probably Rafael versus Jet. You know, back and forth. You know, their eyes all swollen, and I think they really put it on the line, 15 minutes of action. So, but there was quite a few, you know, it wasn't just one, it was probably a hard decision, isn't it? I could name a few fights.
So the co-main event, some might say it's a little controversial how it ended. Now we're going to see the trilogy, right?
Yeah, listen, Hatch was good enough to give Marko a trilogy. You know, I think it would be fair for him to do it again. I thought, you know, he outclassed Hatch tonight, but the thing is, everyone wants to watch that fight because you can't take it off for a second. So, you know, like the first fight, Marko is probably a slightly better boxer, but if Hatch lands that right hand, he's putting anyone to sleep. So, you know, some might say controversial. I wouldn't. I personally think he wasn't defending himself. He was just kind of in a sort of, you know, hunch position. I also think he had a lot of damage, and, you know, I think the doctors probably would have stopped him soon to, you know, to fight another day. But again, he's saved and he can fight another day, and we can kind of do it all again, and everyone wants to see that fight.
And Barry Jones just cemented his legacy as an all-time great in the sport, right?
He's the best. That's it. It's as simple. Across any organisation, I've said this before. You know, like you see it there. He's coming against legit opponents, and he's just putting people to sleep. You know, like. Yeah, he's just incredible, and you know, he's a really softly spoken, nice guy. Hates doing interviews, but just when he gets in that ring, he turns into an absolute monster.
It just must get more and more challenging for you to match him up even with anybody, because he's on a different level, right?
Yeah, no, of course. Listen, bare knuckle's a tough game. You can't rest on your laurels with anyone. You can't take anything for granted. One shot, one jab can open a cut and change it. So Barry will tell you himself, he's got to keep reinventing himself if he wants to bout legacy. You know, good fighters get to the top, great fighters cement legacies, and Barry's trying to cement legacies now.
So the Police Gazette International Cup, BYB had the upper hand tonight, but what do you think about this idea of doing this every couple of months, maybe every year?
It was great, you know, like obviously, you know, it's BYB rules, they got to pick their 9 fighters and we had to match them against them. We obviously had 2 guys that were last minute notice that, you know, kind of didn't help it. But we just want good fights. It doesn't really matter who wins, it doesn't matter to me as the owner of the company. I just want good fights, and I felt we got that tonight. So I'm really happy. I'm really, really happy. I couldn't be happier. Who wins doesn't win. As long as it was kind of close. At one stage, it was looking like, oh my God, the BYB is going to run away with it, and it's going to be awful. But you know, we just want good fights, and that's what we got.
So what do you think about working with Scott Bird, with the Bare Knuckle Hall of Fame? You got John L. Sullivan, all these medallions. Is that just great to celebrate the history of the sport?
Yeah, no, of course, you know, that's what it's about. You know, this was the biggest sport in the world at one time, and we're all trying to strive to take it to that sort of level. So, you know, no one's as passionate with the history of him. It's a shame that all the organisations, you know, when we joined the Police Gazette, we was hopeful that, you know, all the big organisations, the BKFC, the BYB and us were going to be in there, and you get an umbrella, because no one wants to see it to go fractured, you know, like glove boxing, where you get the WBC, IBF, and it just becomes who's the real champion. You don't get to see the fights you want to. You see us with the BYB, we just put the fights on people want to see. So it'd be great if Bare Knuckle can get to a stage where that happens. I know there's differences in the rule sets, and there's you know, the nonsense between owners, but we're open to work with other people, and hopefully other people come in and get involved, and we can all just grow this sport.
What's your plans for the future? What's the next event?
So our event, we're back here in July. So we've got July and September here, and then it's 99% looking like we're going to Kazakhstan in October, and then we've got a November show back here, and then we're in Thailand in December. So yeah, sort of international, and our guys get opportunities to fight in America, and Americans get a chance to fight here. Just about growing the message of bare knuckle, and have it as honest. You know, we don't want to have YouTubers and the kind of nonsense like that. I just want legit fighters. No, it doesn't need to be any of the theatre, the made up pushing, shoving, slapping. Just come in, do their job, put on good fights. The crowd love it. You see the atmosphere is fantastic. You know, a Sunday afternoon show, we've put a good crowd on. That's what people really want to see. I'm Jim Freeman with Bare Knuckle News, and no one beats them to the punch.